Daily Words of God.
Understand God's attitude and drop all misconceptions of God. This God that you currently believe in, have you ever thought about what kind of God He is? When He sees an evil person doing evil things, does He despise it?
He despises it.
When He sees the mistakes of ignorant people, what is His attitude?
Sadness.
When He sees people stealing His offerings, what is His attitude?
He despises them.
This is all very clear, right? When He sees someone being careless in their belief in God, and in no way seeking after the truth, what is God's attitude? You're not totally clear on this one, right? Carelessness is an attitude that isn't a sin, and it isn't offending God. People believe that it shouldn't be considered a blunder. Then what do you think God's attitude is?
He's unwilling to respond to it.
Unwilling to respond to it. What attitude is this? It's that God looks down on these people, scorns these people. God deals with these people by giving them the cold shoulder. His approach is to set them aside, not engaging in any work on them, including enlightenment, illumination, chastening, or discipline. This type of person just does not count in God's work. What is God's attitude toward people who aggravate His disposition and offend His administrative decrees? Extreme loathing. God is extremely enraged by people who are unrepentant about aggravating His disposition. Enraged is just a feeling, a mood. It can't represent a clear attitude. But this feeling, this mood, will bring about an outcome for this person. It will fill God with extreme loathing. What is the consequence of this extreme loathing? It's that God will set this person aside and not respond to them for the time being. He will wait for them to be sorted out during the retribution. What does this imply? Does this person still have an outcome? God never intended to give this type of person an outcome. So is it not then normal that God currently doesn't respond to this type of person?
Yes.
How should this type of person prepare now? They should prepare to take on the negative consequences caused by their behavior and the evil they've done. This is God's response to this kind of person. So I now clearly say to this type of person, do not hold on to delusions anymore, and don't engage in wishful thinking anymore. God will not be tolerant of people indefinitely. He will not endure their trespasses or disobedience indefinitely. Some people will say, I've also seen a few people like this. When they pray, they are especially touched by God, and they weep bitterly. Usually, they're also very happy. They seem to have God's presence and God's guidance. Don't say that nonsense. Weeping bitterly is not necessarily being touched by God or having God's presence, let alone God's guidance. If people anger God, will God still guide them? Generally speaking, when God has determined to eliminate someone, to abandon them, that person already doesn't have an outcome. It doesn't matter how complacent they feel about themselves when they pray, and how much confidence they have in God in their heart. this is already unimportant. The important thing is that God doesn't need this kind of confidence, that God has already spurned this person. How to deal with them afterward is also unimportant. What is important is that in the moment this person angers God, their outcome is already established. If God has determined to not save this type of person, then they will be left behind to be punished. This is God's attitude. Though part of God's essence is love, and He extends mercy toward everyone, people overlook and forget the point that His essence is dignity as well. That He has love doesn't mean that people can freely offend Him, and He doesn't have any feelings or any reactions. That He has mercy doesn't mean that He doesn't have any principles in how He treats people. God is living. He really exists. He is not an imagined puppet or something else. Since He exists, we should carefully listen to His heart's voice at all times, pay attention to His attitude, and understand His feelings. We shouldn't use people's imaginings to define God, and we shouldn't impose the thoughts and wishes of people onto God, making God employ man's style and thinking in how He treats mankind. If you do so, then you're angering God, you're tempting God's wrath, and you're challenging God's dignity. Thus, after you've understood the severity of this matter, I urge each and every one of you here to be cautious and prudent in your actions. Be cautious and prudent in your speaking, and regarding how you treat God. The more cautious and prudent you are, the better. When you don't understand what God's attitude is, don't speak carelessly. Don't be careless in your actions, and don't carelessly apply labels. Even more, don't arbitrarily come to conclusions. Instead, you should wait and seek. This is also a manifestation of fearing God and shunning evil. If you can achieve this point above all, and possess this attitude above all, then God will not blame you for your stupidity, your ignorance, and your unreasonableness. Instead, owing to your fear of offending God, your respect for God's intentions, and your attitude of willingness to obey Him, God will remember you, guide and enlighten you, or tolerate your immaturity and ignorance. Conversely, should your attitude toward Him be irreverent, arbitrarily judging God, arbitrarily guessing and defining God's meaning, God will give you a conviction, discipline, even punishment, or He will give you a statement. Perhaps this statement involves your outcome. Therefore, I still want to emphasize this once more and inform everyone present to be cautious and prudent toward everything that comes from God. Don't speak carelessly, and don't be careless in your actions. Before you say anything, you should think, would doing this anger God? Is doing this fearing God? Even for simple matters, you should still really try to figure these questions out. Really consider them. If you can truly practice according to these principles everywhere, in all things, and all of the time, especially with regard to the matters you don't understand, then God will always guide you and will always give you a path to follow. No matter what people are displaying, God sees it all clearly, plainly, and He will provide you with an accurate and suitable evaluation of these displays. After you've experienced the final trial, God will take all of your behavior and sum it up completely to establish your outcome. This result will convince everyone beyond the shadow of a doubt. What I'd like to tell you is that your every deed, your every action, and your every thought will decide your fate.